Dota, or its full name, Defense of the Ancients, is a mod created for the game Warcraft 3. It combines a lot of important aspects of life, such as teamwork and communication in one very difficult yet rewarding experience. A small amount of brave souls venture into this game and set their lives towards it. But what did this time look like?
At the time, graphics were pretty good compared to now. It's not so good, but if I put myself into little me when I was in 2007, the game was just so in-depth and so complex, and you can approach it different ways, and there's no like right way to play Dota, which is the amazing thing about it. When you play in Dota, you're not playing against a computer, you're not playing against AI, you're not looking to group with 40 other people to beat some dragon or some crap like that. You're playing against other people, you're trying to outsmart them, you're trying to beat them, and it's not that it's a good feeling from beating other people, it's a good feeling to compete on that sort of mental level as opposed to physical, which may not be available to everybody.
I mean, Dota 1 was interesting. I think it had a scene that had a few very hardcore, very well-known figures. It wasn't very spread out. I think it was a handful of people, but everybody knew them. Like Loda, for example, who was so well-known. Malk was really well-known. There were a few Dota tournaments. I think it was mostly DreamHack. And then I think it was something that existed, but didn't really have a core space in eSports. There were a few tournaments here and there, but it wasn't like Counter-Strike or Warcraft 3 back then. Even though it was based on Warcraft 3, I think the popularity was there, but it wasn't picked up by any tournament organizer back then.
I think the community, I think pro players interacted much more with the community back then, because it was so small that like these pro players would write on these posts on Gosu Gamers and stuff like this. Pro players would join in, and you would like upload your own replays from Dota 1, like if you won a game against some good players. I never did this myself, but certain players did. You know, you uploaded a replay of yourself where you won against some better players or whatever, you know, like to hype yourself, kind of like ego boost or whatever. But you interacted with the community too, like people made posts and then pro players defended themselves or like attacked others, and so they were a lot more on these forums in that way.
It was just so difficult, especially for an American. A lot of the tournaments were in Europe and Russia, and as an American, there were just no good organizations, no good sponsors, and pretty much almost no money in the pool. If you won like every single tournament and got first place, it's probably like half of what you need to live for a year. So now if you win TI, you're probably almost good for life. So it's a big difference from back in the day.
When you ask a band or something like that, what was your favorite live or something like that, is it going to be the live that they had the most amount of people in the live? No, they're not going to probably say it. They're maybe going to say it, but most likely they're going to say the one that matters the most. And the one that matters the most is not that the one that was the biggest or famous or something like that. It might be something else.
Most of the time when sponsors threw you offers, they were full of shit, I would say. It's an easy way to put it. They would be like, oh, you know, we'll send you off to this tournament, and then once the time to the tournament actually comes, they'll be like, oh, you guys pay for your ticket and then we'll pay you back. And then a lot of players and teams just never got paid back. And sponsors were really, really sketchy back in the day. Salaries were almost non-existent. If you got like €200 a month, you're like, yes, this is the best thing ever. And now €200 a month, like people would just laugh at it. So sponsors were just a lot less professional, but a lot of it was just because they didn't have enough money, because people didn't know how big it was going to grow. If they knew it was going to be like this today, I'm sure they would have invested a lot more effort and try to keep teams around a lot longer. But you got free gear, you got sent to tournaments, and that was good enough.
It was in Hanover, and that tournament was a really big impact on my life, because I was with a team that pretty much was a mix of players from other countries, and it was very good for us to win, because we played a completely different style. We just went completely aggressive when everybody played passive and won through passivity, and there was no beating it. So for me, it was very important to win that tournament, because that gave me enough confidence to know that I can actually do this, not just by playing like everybody else, but just creating something else and playing. And that tournament for me has as much value as winning the first international.
But back then, there was no Twitch. There was like hardly even webcams. So people didn't know your face. And when you go to a tournament, you could just like walk by and you just play your game, and then you're like, sweet, we just won like, you know, $500, $1,000, and it was a good feeling. But at the end of the day, it's like, yes, I beat the biggest, our biggest rivals. And I think back in the day, yes, it was a lot about reputation, a lot about rivalry, and a lot about just simply being the best and not winning the money. So you had like Europeans versus Russians. There was always that big rivalry there, and then just big ones. I don't know how familiar you are with American sports, but Duke UNC or just a lot of classic rivalries is what it more felt like.
I don't think it got smaller. I can't say because I was in it, and like that's the time where we went to China for the first time. I went there with EG, with Fear and Misery Playmate and Demon. We went there and we were there for 2.5 months or so. And so in my eyes, it was kind of large because we were going to China and we were playing in China, and there were all these tournaments. Like we played in BSWC Paris, and then, I mean, there were a bunch of tournaments. So in my eyes, it wasn't necessarily getting smaller. It was just that then there came this Dota 2, and then everyone just kind of transitioned into Dota 2. The Europeans and Americans first, and then Chinese.
Surprising everyone with a huge $1.6 million tournament, Valve opened the doors to the world of Dota 2. After the International, the game gradually grew towards the point we are at now. One of the biggest esports scenes of our time.
Well, Dota 2 was actually pretty slow in development, and I remember the first TI, it was a very, very limited hero pool. There were a lot of bugs with the game. There was a very small player base, and there were a lot of issues, and everyone always jokes about Valve time, and that was what, maybe 2010-ish, and it's come a long way. And even then, it wasn't that the game wasn't polished. That wasn't my main problem with it. It was the same problem was still there. Like, I don't know where the money is, and how am I supposed to sustain a living?
Well, TI1, I think we were all really surprised. I mean, back then, the tournament with the $1 million in prize money, it was insane. It was nothing that, for a single tournament, had ever been done before. So everybody thought it was a huge risk, and obviously a core component of esports is not just playing, but watching. So the fact that watching was made so easy played an important role, and the more people watch, the easier it is to tell sponsors, for example, look, this is a great opportunity for you to connect with people. And then, because all the tournaments were based on sponsors for a long time, that was the reason why it was able to grow, just because we were able to say, I reach millions, not just tens of thousands with that.
After TI1, people actually realized that, hey, this is pretty good, and we can actually do stuff. But outside of TI1, there still wasn't anything. No one else was throwing money at the game. The game wasn't popular enough. Sponsors just kind of discarded it in favor of other games, and a lot of the underlying problems were still there.
In the beginning, when this tournament TI1 was like released, no one really believed that this was a real thing, because it was like, okay, like the highest prize pool back then was maybe like, I want to say like $30,000, $35,000 to $50,000, like, and then comes this $1 million tournament, like first place. So no one actually thought it was real for quite some time, and then you play this TI and you see this Navi, wow, they get their $1 million, and then people start realizing that, oh, wow, this is actually the future.
So a lot of it had to do with the issue of Valve's commitment to Dota 2. When everyone heard of the $1 million prize pool, everyone was just like, oh, this is just one of 1,000 sponsors, like fake promises. Oh, even if we win it, are we gonna get paid? Are we gonna get paid in like 3 years? Is our sponsor gonna take 50% of it? Like, is some of it gonna go to travel and stipend? And people just didn't believe it. So a lot of people just like didn't consider it. And then when the team actually won, and they actually got paid out, and they were like, oh, we're doing this every single year. We're giving $1 million to first place minimum, and then you're like, wow, this is the real deal. So I think that Valve as a company, yes, they may have some communication issues, but at least they follow through with their promises.
I can only say that the only people that could not believe in it were the ones that are stupid. There's no other thing that you could just pretty much say. It's not that they won't pay out, let's say, the whole prize pool, let's say like that. They have to pay something, but first of all, every player during that time, it's pretty much 4 years ago, 3 years ago, actually. You could pretty much think that every 17-year-old is pretty much skeptical. Oh, it's not going to be $1 million. Okay, look up who Valve is. Look up what they are. Look up what they're doing. They're bringing up you here and stuff. You can't. The information is laid out right in front of your face. You can't be skeptical about it because nobody really did research. They just thought this is a fluke or something like that, right? Well, a lot of teams that were not the winners of the international, they ended up thinking maybe that it's a fluke. But in all honesty, it was very hard to play Dota 2 right away after playing Dota 1 for like whatever times, because the game was completely different like from now. And there's a lot of changes, visually, gameplay wise, whatever, how you click your mouse, everything is different. So it's really hard to grasp it. And only the true people that believed in themselves could have done it.
The game has been around for 3 years now, with esports in general growing immensely since its release. Players rise and fall, though some veterans are still here. How will the scene develop, and what will happen in the future?
Nothing happened after International 1. A lot of it stayed the same way as Dota 1 did. But I think it took 6 months, or even more. Maybe it took like 8 months for everything to start shifting forward. Because I remember for a fact that the Chinese still could not play Dota 2. And that means that, you know, that part is not even connected to this game yet.
People knew all the teams going into TI2, and the game was far more polished, far more spectator friendly, and it was just one of the best experiences, one of the best tournaments I've seen.
I think Tier 3 was like, that's when the prize money actually went up in comparison to the previous one. And then obviously now TI4 is a lot more money as well.
For players, it's a difficult situation because they used to be able to just do what they want, and now there's more sponsors there and teams are looking closer, so you can't just say what you want all the time. So they have to watch themselves a lot more, and obviously they used to, you know, give away lots of personal details and everything, and maybe at some point they will know that this might not be a good thing. But in general, I think it's the way this has developed. It's not the aggressive culture that you see in other fields, you know, where stars are really being harassed and it's difficult for them to move around. Even though they really like these idols and there's a huge following, it's still a culture of respect. So I think there will still remain the fact, just the esports culture as it is, they will always be respectful of the players and they won't harass them. So I think that's something that is not really going to change, just because it's part of esports culture that you respect the players. You want to meet them and you idolize them, but there's still respect for the fact that they need their free space, and you know, it's nobody's going to look for juicy details of your private life. That's not the case yet, and I don't think it will be the case in 5 years either.
I think in 5 years it's going to be different because people might be trying to develop their personalities more than actually trying to win the game, because that's where more money might be at. If you look at some of the popular streamers, I might not be the best player and some other popular streamers might not be the best players, but since they have such charismatic personalities, since they're so good at talking, since they're so good at interacting with people, people love them for it. And Na'Vi, they've been in the slump for quite a long time. They haven't won a TI in 3 years, but everyone still adores them and loves them, and that is monetizable. And from a business perspective, you're like, well, I can still hold on to Denny because he is amazingly good with people. And not to say that he's not amazing in the game, because they've had some wins to back it up, but not to some of the extent as other people are. Like IG fan base, they won a TI, but no one really knows them that much. No one really loves them the way that they love Dendi. So in a few years, I think it could be a problem, but as of right now, all the players that play, they love the game too much to consider anything else.
Yes, it's true that it's for a player that doesn't want to be involved in business is going to have a hard time. And it's pretty much what we see here in every team that has problems with their organizations or agents or whatever and stuff. They're not into business. And I'm sorry, but it's part of the business now. You are part of the business and you need to know. That's why an agent is a really good thing to have, because he will deal with the stuff. You're like, hey, Stevie, you go deal with my stuff, right? And you're going to pay him money to do more money for you or whatever and stuff. Because that's business. Because, in all honesty, people are kind-hearted. Kind-hearted people that play Dota do not want to deal with business, obviously. I'm not saying like I'm not kind-hearted, that's why I'm dealing with it. It's just that I maybe am more, I feel it like necessary that I will take control of my life or something like that. And even though I can be my own agent, I still don't agree. I think somebody else is most likely smarter than I am in this aspect and just can do this for me anyway. So it's like I said, it's a new thing for Dota players.
It's hard to deny that eSport has been established by now, with multi-million-dollar prize pools, filling stadiums with spectators and players traveling all over the world to do what they love most. What's next?
The eye of Scotty, making it a pain for him to move around. Order will go down, and this here at the same time, he gets that double kill. 4 heroes down. The melee lance has gone down to the middle lane.